review today is the Physocarpus opulus drought. I guess they call this one Diablo Ninebark is a common name, Diablo, and it's really quite a pretty plant. I think a lot of people have a difficult time growing this plant, but the one thing you don't do with it is shear it. It doesn't like to be trimmed and sheared, and that's one of the problems that you'll see with Diablo Ninebarks is that people are always constantly shearing them. And they also overwater them, and so when they water them a lot, the plants grow lush and soft, and then they shear them, and that causes them to get lush and soft, and which really causes the plant to develop mildew in a bad way. And you're better to grow them dry, so occasional watering's fine, but they really are quite drought tolerant. This plant gets very little water. It gets about maybe once a week or so, maybe sometimes twice a week in the heat of summer. We're in a desert situation, it's pretty dry here. So also you'll notice in the background that there's some emerald cedars growing here, and the emerald cedars have their roots all through this whole area. So there's a lot of competition going on as far as with this particular plant. But the beautiful thing with Diablo Ninebark is these beautiful glossy leaves. You know, here we are in October, if you can imagine, that this is probably not the best time of year to view these plants, but they're going to be turning some beautiful fall colors soon, which is nice. But in the early part of the season, I'll just pull out some of these little seed pods that they have. And in the springtime, what happens is they'll explode into these like snowballs of white, brilliant white flowers against the dark colored foliage. It just looks beautiful. And then after they finish the bloom, then they get these little seed pods form, and they're a brilliant dark red color. So they're really, really quite colorful. So I love this plant going through all of its changes. The only thing is that it's a large plant. Don't put it in a small space. It needs space. This thing could get as high as about 14 feet tall if it was just left alone. So right plant, right place, absolutely. Put it in a nice sunny spot where it's got lots of room to sprawl around. And this sprawling effect is what you do. You just kind of let it do its own thing, get its own shape. And then about every 4 or 5 years, you can cut the thing down to about 2 or 3 feet high and rejuvenate it. This one's been rejuvenated twice. And I'm not going to prune it this year. I'm just going to let it grow. Next year, it'll be bigger and even more spectacular. So, and I've got a space here. It's probably going to be about 12 feet in diameter where it's going to live. So really cool plant, Diablo Ninebark. And you notice it works really good with any plants that have sort of a light chartreuse color nearby. This is a hydrangea Annabelle in the background, and what a great combination putting those two together. So it's just a really good plant. I think it's good. I just don't think it's good if you're going to overwater it or if you're going to hedge trim it. Just forget it. Put it out of your, put it somewhere else and just let it grow. It's my philosophy behind growing plants is that you plant it and walk away, and your job is done. The maintenance that you do is about every 5 or 6 years. Often, this one about every 4 to 5 years. You come back and you might have to rejuvenate it. Or you lift the canopy, in the case of these, lift the shrub up a little bit so you can get underneath for cleaning with rakes and things in the fall. Really nice to reduce maintenance just literally by putting the plant in the right spot. So that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in to growercoach.com, and remember the plant review today, Diablo Ninebark.